with you today. Would you join me in prayer? Dearest Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for just the ability to live in a country that's free, Lord, where you can be worshipped, where you have granted government to the people. And so, Lord, we pray that we would take that responsibility seriously. Lord, that you would grant wisdom and clarity to these who are making decisions today. Lord, that they would have the opportunity to speak freely and that their decisions would be guided by you. Lord, I think most of all about the neighborhoods. I think about the neighborhood impact houses that are even meeting right now and the kids that are gathered there. Lord, I pray that you would give them safety in their homes and in their schools and at the neighborhood house. Lord, that you would guide their steps during the day. Thinking even of Joey and Marcel right now who are playing basketball at the Kingtree House. And I pray that you would guard their little hearts. Lord, that you would have them in your hands. Lord, that you would grant them to grow up in a safe neighborhood and a safe environment. And Lord, that you would lead them to yourself as well. Lord, I pray as these go forward today in making decisions that you would grant clarity and wisdom to them. Lord, that they would make wise decisions that would ensure that your hand can work in these neighborhoods. Thank you, Lord, that you have delegated to us this responsibility. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thanks. We can remain standing. Place your hand over your heart and face the flag and repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brad. Okay, now to public business from the floor. I don't believe we have any speakers. Does it look like it?
We have no speaker cards.
Okay. We'll move to the consent calendar where we have our meeting minutes from December 4th. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those? And if we have had time to review them, if we can have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from December 4th.
And a second? From someone?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor, we'll just do a vocal aye, or raise our hand.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Okay, and I've signed them, Linda, and I'll give them to you this time. Okay, now we'll move to our presentations, which are we still waiting for the computer to get up and running, or are we going to be able to do it without the PowerPoint presentation?
If we can wait just a few minutes, if you want to move to your continued business.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and move past the Hill Zone program presentation, and I'll give you guys an update on the status of the dog ordinance that we've been working on. After we had the meeting, I believe in August, I spoke at the council meeting in December and presented the ordinance that we all kind of vetted through the commission. The council members, had issue with a couple things, wanted us to dive back into the issues a little more. So we went to, the subcommittee went to GAVAR, the Greater Antelope Valley Association of Realtors, to discuss with them kind of the impact that this ordinance would have on them and the community that they represent, the homeowners, landlords, home buyers, sellers, and whatnot. And we basically came to a determination that the most important thing that everyone felt and everyone agreed on was that we needed to make sure that the landlords received notice if something occurred on their property. A dog bite occurred on their property. That was the most important thing, because we all came to the determination that with notice, the landlords then are held responsible for anything that happens after the notice. GAVAR, and I can't say I disagree with them, they had a problem with the fine. Because the ordinance as written imposed an immediate fine subject to a waiver by the city manager's office. And, after we kind of talked about the process, ultimately the fine probably was not necessary when all we needed to do was to find a way to give them notice. So we basically took from that meeting and presented the city manager's office with the idea of how do we implement just giving the landlords notice. So as opposed to the city enacting a ordinance for to basically accomplish this purpose. The city is now taking the position, and Kelvin, mistake me if I'm wrong, but taking the position that they're going to implement a policy as opposed to an ordinance, so that the sheriff's department and or animal control, when they go out for one of these calls where there is a dog bite and they do their investigation that there is a landlord-tenant situation, that they will send notice to the landlord of record according to public records to give them notice, and that will then provide the city with what it's looking for, which is somebody to be liable for damages for a dog bite that happens at these properties. So ultimately, I thank you guys for all the work we've put into it, and I think after time and time again, I think we found something that works for both the landlords and works for a potential injured party, to ensure that we provide as much protection for that injured party without causing major consequences to the landlords. So again, so that's basically our update on that. Unless you have anything new, Kelvin.
Mr. Chair, yes. Actually, I'd like to have Mr. DeRico, who's the one that's actually putting together the structured protocol for this notification. He can give you an update on what he's doing with the sheriff's department as well as animal care and control.
Great.
Hi. What I'm doing is I'm putting developing a protocol for the sheriff's department as well as animal control on a notification to us on a weekly basis. So it's easy for the sheriff's department because based on in their RAPS data for developing calls for service, and depending if how they pull a file number or clear a call, they have a clearance code for that as it's related to a vicious animal and if there's a dog bite. Animal control is a little bit different, but probably simpler for the notification to us because they can probably update us daily on that. And then what I'm doing is I'm developing a letter that's very similar to what we have with other quality of life nuisance type issues where we send a notification out. I'll use barking dogs as an example, okay? And it's basically a letter that identifies the ordinance, okay, with the mindset being is compliance, not to be punitive, okay, that you need to take some type of affirmative action to deal with the issue at your property and explain the liability aspect of it to the property owner. So that's basically what it would be. Obviously, if things continue after that, the civil recourse is still in play. And then if at some point that the city determines they want to implement some nuisance-related type fine, there's other avenues to do that.
Okay.
But it'll be a notification system. It's certainly something that we can bring to the commission if the commission wishes. I would like to get your input on the letter, so it will have the city manager's signature as all our letters do. But I'd like to go through a process on just developing that letter. So it's more working cooperatively with our property owners to gain compliance.
Which I think, I agree with, and I'm sure Commissioner Harris would agree with that as well from his standpoint as,
Absolutely.
From his property management division of his business. So I think, so can we put it on the March agenda, or you want to kick it out to April and we can have another discussion about it?
I actually believe I'm going to have the letter done by the end of the week, just
Okay.
this summer. Maybe I can just send it to you, and it's probably not, if there's any input you'd like to add to the letter, if there's any changes, then, it's not, it's more of an administrative process. Okay, and just to see if there's something that you think is a gap or something else we might need with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should just be kept, up to date with where we are on that. I don't know if we need to keep beating this issue even further for our commission. I think we've done a good job at diving down to what everyone's interested in. So,
but we can still bring you the monthly meeting, provide you any stats that relate back to this ordinance and what issues we've had.
Sure.
The numbers aren't that high.
No,
Okay,
no,
so
not at all.
I don't have some expectation that we're just going to get inundated with this. As we've already looked at data so far this year, it's very low. So it's a low frequency issue. Okay.
Well, once is too many times, I think.
No,
So
I agree
that's-
with that. I'm saying as consideration of how many households we have in the city of Lancaster.
Certainly. Thank you for that. Any questions on that particular ordinance or where we are with that? Okay. Are we ready for the presentation, or are we still working on it?
I think we better move ahead with
Okay.
just the...
Go ahead and then how about, Brenda, can you give us your update with respect to the new business? Give us the 2013 Unite program calendar update.
Okay, it's that time of year again. So we're getting
Already?
ready. Yes. We're getting ready for the Unite Lancaster 2013. As you know, the program's goal is to unite neighbors, to strengthen neighborhoods, make them safer and stronger. So to do that, this year, our schedule for applications for community members to submit applications begins May 8th, and it runs through June 14th this year. And that's on your second page. And the public forums, we'll have 2 again this year. That was successful in prior years. So we'll have one on a weeknight, that is May 15th, and one on Saturday morning, that's June 1st.
And I'm sorry, Brenda, the neighborhood again that we're doing this year is Mariposa?
Yes, you're jumping ahead.
Oh,
but it's
sorry.
coming. Yes. But yes, you're right. Interviews with the finalists will be July 15th through July 19th. And then at the LNVC, at this commission meeting on August 6th, the winners will be announced.
Fantastic.
And then Unite Lancaster Day this year is Saturday, September 21st. And yes, as the chairman said, the target area is Mariposa, and it's between Avenue I and Avenue H, 10th Street West to Sierra Highway. And as you'll notice, that actually stretches into Desert View as well. So we just decided that that's where the sheriffs are already doing work, so we wanted to stretch it out to that area.
Fantastic.
Yes. And then the next is a visual, which would have been better on screen, but hopefully you can tell here. There's Mariposa School is the box that's in the center there. And then along Avenue I and Sierra Highway, there's the commercial and industrial. And then the rest of it's pretty much neighborhood or desert areas, with the one park being up on Sierra Highway. And then there's Mariposa Park near the school. And the reasons for this target neighborhood is, like I said, the sheriffs are already doing work in this area. So we've been successful in the past with having the Unite program follow the sheriffs and be part of that progress, and having the town hall meetings. So we want to continue that community policing effort and make it very successful and get this neighborhood working and functional and safe again. There's also some public works projects that have been identified by our Public Works Department, and they are currently working to inventory like sidewalks where trees have pushed up the sidewalks. And then there's a basin that's just outside this area that we're looking at as well. And they'll come back with figures and feasibility for that. And then although this is the target area, we will accept applications for anywhere in the city. It's just that this is the primary area that we're targeting. And they'll take priority over other projects.
And I think last year's focus on a particular neighborhood, that was the first year we did it, right? Because the year prior it was citywide.
Right. We did have the town hall meeting, but we didn't go into that neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think it's, I think focusing on the neighborhood is what this commission was designed to do. So, I'm excited about the project this year.
Right. Did you have any questions or concerns?
Now, is a public forum, is that another form of a town hall meeting?
Actually, this public forum is informational for anybody who has a project that they're thinking about or want to know how to fill out the applications. But yes, there would be a town hall meeting, just like we did last time. That is not on this calendar. But
Okay.
As the sheriffs and the public safety manager work out the details, and when it comes time, we would schedule that. But Lee may have...
Yes, I kind of like to follow that same community-based format that we did last time. So we initially know just based on what activity we've seen in the area and by our statistical crime data, as well as what the field crews are seeing in the area, the kind of stops, the self-initiated activity by the deputies and our task force teams. Example, our task force team hit a house today over there that they had to take 6 children out of the house, unfit home. A couple parolees at large were residing in the unit. We have pockets of that back throughout the area. Okay, we have we have some density with group homes, we have densities with some suitable placement issues, we have some things, lack of supervision problems. Now, is it the same as it was 6 years ago? Absolutely not. Okay, but the difference is the last time that we worked in this neighborhood, we didn't have the follow-through that we practiced last year in El Dorado. El Dorado still is continuing to decline statistically. So maintaining that presence has proven that taking that approach has been very effective by bringing all the resources that are available. So we're going to re-enter this community in that same mindset. And it's a little bit different because there's a lot of issues with there's a lack of like supermarkets nearby. People have, the closest ones like 20th Street, Weston Avenue. I mean, there's some issues with services in the area as well that we need to address along with this project. But I would like to have that discussion at the next meeting. I believe that we will be tied up operationally and be done by the time we as a group meet again, as this commission meets, and then maybe we can set a date from that point for a town hall. And we have a couple. We could do it at Mariposa School. We could do it at Desert View. We could do it. That's probably the two places we want to. Mariposa Park actually has a nice building on it, but it's not very big.
Right.
So those of us who've been around a while, probably like Howard too, and everyone worked Parks and Rec for the county back before the city incorporated. Mariposa had been there a long time, but the school's a great place.
I remember working my days at Mariposa when I worked Parks and Rec.
There you go.
And I'll tell you what, it wasn't then. It wasn't like it is now.
No. But we've had some issues like with Whit Carter Park over on Sarah Highway that we've addressed. We have a significant graffiti case that most of it had taken place in that reporting district. It's almost $1 million worth of damages that we're going to be going to restitution hearing on shortly with 10 defendants. So there's a lot of things that has why I believe it was important for us to go into that area with the resources we have.
Now, do you think it's possible for the commission to receive a presentation on just this neighborhood,
Sure.
statistics on population, resources? For instance, like you said, there's, I think the Vallarta there on 20th and I is probably the only supermarket they have that's really accessible.
Right.
Once you get to H, I mean, there's nothing that side of town necessarily.
I believe Commissioner Kiefer sees a lot of the folks from the neighborhood there because that's their biggest complaint, actually being able to obtain nutritional food for their children in the area, things because they're on foot. So those are some things on the hindsight of services that we can develop a plan for. But I can provide you statistically right down to each neighborhood. However, the commission would see how we break this down. What's really good, and you could access this right now through the city's website in our crime mapping program, just pick a random address or 100 block in that area and then work out from that. So it's a pretty effective tool for seeing, and that's updated daily in there statistically by us through an intern we have upstairs. That's a pretty accurate thing to see that. Then again, we should do exactly what we did last time. We do the initial contact, we have the town hall, we follow that up either before the town hall or after with surveys. We got a lot of value out of the last town hall meeting in El Dorado where we specifically targeted issues. Quite frankly, for me in that meeting, I was very happy with what complaints were about. Not happy that they were happening, but the fact that the level of complaints based on what we had been dealing with prior in the neighborhood as far as criminal activity was nowhere near what we had dealt with before. So it was more nuisance, quality of life type issues. So that's where I want to be at this town hall. Okay, we need to do the work now, which we're currently doing, and then hopefully in the town hall that becomes what the issues are about.
Yeah, I think we should task ourselves with being educated as best as possible on this neighborhood. Because as we go into the application process and we go into these, not just the town halls, but the public meetings for what we're looking to do, I think before that happens, we should know really, what does this area need? Some of us may be, really knowledgeable as to that these particular blocks of the town, but some of us may not. So let's maybe 1 week. One meeting, one of the next meetings, let's put on the agenda maybe just some statistics and what what makes up this neighborhood, some demographics, what resources are available, and then maybe the meeting after that, maybe some crime statistics or something. If it's too much to put into one meeting.
No, it's not. We can develop that as maybe in 4 parts for the one meeting, different parts of the aspects of it.
Yeah.
What we see as the criminal issues, the criminal data issues, what we look at as far as housing availability versus residential, duplex, fourplexes, we have significant differences in housing that are available in this area, and what each one has specific issues that are related to that.
Sure,
Maybe we could do something based on poverty density versus criminal statistics and what trends we're seeing, those type of things that we can talk about. How are we going to impact that, okay? And then probably the other part of that would be is probably after we conduct a survey there, because people that live in the neighborhood are going to be able to tell us more of what they perceive their issues are.
Sure.
Do we have any reports on what has happened to a neighborhood once the redevelopment agency homes that are being rehabbed there and sold, what kind of good it's done for the neighborhood?
We could probably, it would be difficult to do that because they're not all sold at the same time. I think you could probably put a preliminary number where you set a baseline at a certain time period,
right,
what we saw statistically over time, and then at some point when we did come through the redevelopment agency, we went through the rehab programs in those neighborhoods, and then what transitioned after that point. Maybe that's easier when the homes were completed. Okay, did that change that mindset, the broken window theory, the issue that, it's like graffiti. We have an issue in the court right now because it's like it's almost like the defendants who have committed the crime are becoming like the victims because we're trying to ask for money from them. Okay, when we forget the whole purpose that we go out and initially attack graffiti, we don't want to have that mindset and that we're a complacent community and allow this kind of activity to take place to make people that want to be involved in criminal activity comfortable. So it's a constant readdressing things. I believe the redevelopment homes have had that impact in the neighborhoods. That's just me looking at the changes in the neighborhood. So, part of that community model is to bring people to take ownership of their neighborhood, take more pride in their community, feel that they're a part of the community, that they're a contributing person in our community, and that they're necessary for overall quality of life for all of us. So, I think that does that. To say how they're being sold, you would know that better than me. I don't know.
How they're being sold is not my concern as much as it is what kind of good is happening from the people that are buying it. In other words, it's supposed to be owner-occupied, and I've often wondered, they buy it owner-occupied, but are they, is anyone mandating that they stay in the property, it's not turned into a rental, things of these nature, and what it's doing for the neighborhood?
Well, I do know that there's a compliance issue with a qualification for the low-income qualifier for a certain period of time that the person has to stay in the home. Now, whether, what the compliance is on that, I have no idea. And that's maybe something we should look at. I don't think it's been an issue. I will say this, that we did do a study several years ago that almost 70% of all the crime that was occurring in the community was occurring in rental properties. So, if that's truly the statistic, and it was a qualified study to say that, okay, so probably you could make the argument that more owner-occupied property is conducive to less crime. But I think on the other side of it is if you have, even in a rental situation, that you have a pride of ownership issue, you have an active landlord, and you have good tenant screening, you can have the same effect.
Right.
Today's issue was directly related to an absentee owner. Okay, that's a big issue for us, and I think that's part of why we're having some of these discussions, and the mayor and the city council are having these discussions, because that seems to be, there's always a nexus back to that relationship. It's not our local companies, okay? It's like we have active management companies here, okay? They're very active. It's absentee owners. So that's, we have to tie that in somehow.
How many impact homes and wellness homes are in this area? One or two?
We have 2 wellness homes and 2 impact homes.
3 impact, because we have 2 in Desert View and 1 in Mariposa.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
We have a big presence in this neighborhood as far as community. So.
Okay. Thank you.
And this community also falls within our HEAL zone, which will be discussed next. But there's a lot of work going on at the elementary schools, things like that. So.
I was a Rec 3 for over a year at Mariposa, when the first year Lancaster Cares program started. So I know that. Well, I knew that neighborhood very well. So
It's a great park.
yeah,
The building's completely underutilized as far as the neighborhood, so I kind of want to promote that too.
I played some of my best games of dodgeball with the kids in that cafeteria. So
I like it because it's natural fit and it's walking distance for most of the northern is underutilized. So I'd like to bring some community-based organizations that are doing programs on, but then that sort of get a positive presence back.
Now, you brought up the community-based organizations. Now, with the Unite program, we obviously keep them apprised of what we're doing so that so that they can be involved or not, right? And they know that for the most part we're focusing on this particular neighborhood. I think that a lot of the whether it's faith-based or not, I mean there's a lot going on in town. I think if we can have a unified effort in this Unite program, no pun intended, then we can really make some great strides here. So
I'm sorry, this will actually be in the March Outlook. So
good.
Yeah, so they'll see it in that. It will be in the paper. And also, we invite them to the town hall meetings to be part of that as well.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? No? Is our Heal Zone presentation ready?
I think we're going to have to do it the same way.
Okay. Well, I think we've all received our PowerPoints, so for those watching on TV, which I can imagine is thousands, unfortunately they won't be able to know what we're looking at. But otherwise, let's go. So how about Commissioner Kiefer? Do you want to introduce us or introduce this presentation for us? Since you know a little bit about it, I think.
Sure. Well, I'd like to introduce Jean Varden. She's our Director of School-Aged Zone at Antelope Valley Partners for Health. And she's been the lead project director of the Heal Zone, which is the Healthy Eating Active Living project funded through Kaiser Permanente. And we're going into our second year as of January, and we're very excited about it. And she just wants to do an update and next steps and how the Commission can get involved as well, which kind of ties into everything that Lee was just saying.
Perfect. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Yes, this was interesting to me because there really is a lot of overlap. We need to talk a little bit more, maybe to coordinate better with some plans that we have in mind. So thank you. I did do a presentation a few months ago, or maybe it was more than a few months ago, about the Heal Zone, Healthy Eating and Active Living project. And so this is just a brief update, as Michelle indicated, and also maybe to throw out some ideas about how about some next steps we might want to take. The mission statement, I wanted to bring that to you because our Heal Zone Coalition, which has been meeting on a monthly basis, actually developed this mission statement, which says that the partnership will create an environment in the Heal Zone schools and neighborhoods that promotes, encourages, and supports healthy eating choices and active living for children and adults. And the Heal Zone Coalition is made up of some school district representatives and community organizations, as well as citizens that are interested in this topic. And they guide our work and give input to as we go along. And it's been a big help to have them, to meet with them every month. They always bring up ideas that we hadn't thought of. Oh, why don't you do this or that? And we haven't been able to incorporate most of the suggestions they've made. So just a little bit about what's been happening since about last September. We've been working actively on increasing consumption of the healthy food that is served in the cafeteria. As you may know, there are now federal regulations that all school child nutrition programs must follow regarding the nutritional aspects of the food that's served in the cafeteria. So there are huge improvements in the menus themselves over 5 and 6 years ago. They must offer a certain amount of fresh fruits and vegetables every week. The calorie consumption is calculated depending on the age of the child as what's appropriate, and there's reduced fat and reduced sodium, and there's very specific numbers that they have to follow in making up the menu. The child nutrition director, Marilyn Belcher at Lancaster School District, was one of the first 38 schools in the state to have her menus approved this year as being in compliance with those guidelines. So we're serving good food. What we are discovering, and I mentioned this before, and it's why we kind of rewrote our goals, because actually our school district was following most of these guidelines even prior to the requirement that started this year. What we're finding is quite often 60% or so of the fresh fruits and vegetables that are served to the kids will go into the trash. So it's a consumption problem. It's kids not being used to eating that kind of food, I think. But there's lots of issues. There's environment issues, the cafeteria schedule because of the school day. The kids aren't in there for very long. It's noisy. It's not really conducive to eating for a lot of kids. So we're approaching it from several angles. One, simple one, and the classified personnel that oversee the kids in the cafeteria came up with some of these ideas. We met with them, and they're a wonderful group. They really want good things for the kids. I've had to tell the assistant superintendent and the superintendent I had no idea of the commitment of this group of people in our schools. But anyway, one of the things that they do, if the kids at least taste everything, finish a good part of their meal, we don't want to force kids to eat too much if they can't, but if they eat a good part of their meal, they get a little script, and it's slightly different at every school, and when they save up a certain number of those, they can get something out of a treasure box. And we have just simple little things in this treasure box. But it's amazing. The principal at Linda Verde School said that the first 2 weeks after they tried that, they had a huge increase in the number of kids eating their food. Another solution we found was requiring the kids to stay there for 20 minutes, not allowing kids that finished first to leave, because the slow eaters were just getting up when somebody out there, buddies, were leaving. Now, we're trying to get the teachers involved in promoting the eating, and that's kind of that's progressing a little bit. We need to work more on that. Another thought we have is doing taste testing with kids and introducing them to some of the fresh fruits and vegetables that are now used in the cafeteria in a fun way so that they get more accustomed to it. And then our next steps are going to be, what's the presentation like? What's the seasoning like? Can we make that more attractive? So those are some of the things we're working on there. Any questions or thoughts about that? It's a slow process, really. Physical education, we're excited about what's happening there. At Desert View School, we've had a workshop with the teachers. We have a great physical education consultant who is approaching it from a whole different point of view. It's not going out and playing games. What physical education is about is teaching kids physical skills from a broader sense, so that as they grow older and decide what they would like to do physically for exercise, they're equipped to manage their body, balance, and how to use your hands and feet, how to cross over, how to do all kinds of things that enable you to engage in whatever physical activity you might want to choose for yourself. So that was a new concept. It's like not that different than teaching math in that you're teaching skills, but making the activities fun so that the kids want to do them. And a big change from past years is that all kids are doing something at once, so there's no waiting around. So whatever amount of time they have, 20, 25 minutes, they're pretty active for that whole time. And the teachers are really responding. We're showing them how to manage a group outside, and so it's like kind of a new era of physical education for them, and easier to conduct than what they had been doing in the past. And then another, and at Paiute Middle School, we're also working with the teachers there to update the methods that they're using. And then promoting structured activities during school recess. We're getting the equipment that they need. We're going to be doing training with the duty aides that supervise at that time, so that the kids will really be playing some active games, keeping out of trouble, and also learning sportsmanship and also the enjoyment of activity at the same time. We have gardens going at Mariposa School, so again, we've kind of focused on the same area. We have a big garden that recently, out back, and I can't remember what the street is. It's on the east side of Mariposa, but if you drive by the school, it's on the east side, and it's right. It borders with the park. And it's now fenced off. The school district did that for us and put in irrigation. And we have manure out there, and the kids helped us spread some gypsum last week, and fortunately it rained the next day, which was perfect. So what we're doing is soil preparation right now, because that hasn't been tilled in 30 years. And hopefully we'll be ready to start planting in the spring. And then in the meantime, we've been doing a little small garden in the front of the school. And then at the wellness home, we meet every week with a group of kids who is doing gardening in the backyard of the wellness home. And we've been doing nutrition activities with those kids as well that come to the garden. Staff and student surveys. Kaiser has asked us to do these baseline surveys so that we will have data, and they'll be done again at the end of the project, so we'll know something about our progress. And then we're just starting to work with the school district on looking at their nutrition and physical activity policies, and there will be a district committee working on updating those policies. And I would like to share with you the brochure that we developed on healthy snacks. So this is going to be distributed to parents, to teachers, and with the new policies, which will require fundraisers and celebrations at school to be healthy food, this will be a guideline that teachers and school volunteers can use. And it will also be giving it to parents who send snacks with their kids to school. So hopefully we'll be seeing some items off of this list rather than bags of Cheetos. And there's some kind of hot Doritos are very popular, right?
My wife's an ER nurse, and she says that the parents will bring their little kids in, 3, 4, or 5 years old, complaining of gastrointestinal issues, and they bring them in with a bag of those flaming hot Cheetos, and they wonder why their kids are having stomach issues.
Oh, that's
interesting. Not very surprising.
Right,
so
right.
This is incredibly important.
Mm-hmm. And we know we have a lot of work to do, helping parents learn more about preparing food and selecting food, and we have a whole lot of ideas going at AVPH. It's not part of the report today, but maybe in the future we can share some of those ideas. But that we're just in the infant stages, literally and figuratively, of how do we address it. Because what I'm finding at the wellness house at Mariposa with the garden club, that the kids really do get excited about trying new food, and we're having them participate in preparing it and that sort of thing, but they have little experience with that at home. So that's going to be an ongoing venture. So studies keep telling us, though, that health and well-being are directly related to physical and social environments in our community. So just like well, to me, it's not like smoking, but people that do these campaigns are liking it to that what's really reduced the number of people smoking is really changing the whole environment. And so we want to look at similar things for healthy eating and active living. And so I'm just throwing out some ideas here to the Commission about how AVPH and the city might work together on making it easier for people to eat healthy and be active. And some of these things may have already, I think, I just hearing some of the things you're saying, Lee, is similar to what we're thinking here. But the three ideas that you see are they're just thoughts to throw out. Like, we couldn't, I don't think it would be practical to require it, but could we advocate and have some sort of recognition for restaurants that are willing to put nutrition information, on their menu selections? Now, Denny's has a little bit of that on some of their menu selections, and I think there's other restaurants that do as well. But could we encourage more of that, especially of the restaurants that people are frequenting the most often, including the fast food restaurants? And then this was brought up. I was thinking of identifying where are kids hanging out after school. Like I know for sure the 7-Eleven over on Avenue I. Yeah, and there's probably others. Can we work with them on featuring healthy snacks, some of the kinds of things that are on this list, in the front of their store, as well as other kinds of things that they have? Now, there are some things in there, like they have nuts and trail mix and things, but they're not necessarily that noticeable. When I visited in Sweden, in Stockholm, Sweden, several years ago, all the 7-Elevens there have fresh fruits available and fresh, healthy bakery goods every day. So, whether that's possible, I don't know. And then the food truck issue. The city of Santa Ana has done a lot of work on this, so we have some models to look at. It's not an easy thing, but it's something we could start, looking at. Can they carry some healthy foods? Yes.
I find this quite interesting, as one of my resolutions this year is to work on weight loss and eating healthy. But I think the challenge that you'll find is that it is a culture. And I don't mean ethnically, but just a culture of how people eat. And so it, in my mind, is going to take a multi-pronged approach, where maybe having free workshops, not only at the Mariposa, but all of the wellness homes and community neighborhood impact homes, as well as the schools. So the more they hear it, it's going to start creating a buzz. I hear it at school, I hear it at the impact house, I hear it here, I hear it there. And then that's how the culture begins to shift and to, of course, show the benefits. But that's just a suggestion, is to do that multi-pronged approach.
I think that's exactly right. It has to come from lots of directions. And and we have to be patient about the time that it'll take, I think.
Right.
Yeah. I like that. Okay, the making it easier for youth and families to engage in physical activity. A lot has already happened there with your master plan for trails and bikeways. I think the next step, of course, is to get people more engaged in using those. And so I'll look at that second one, because being in the neighborhood a lot, I noticed that the parks are not utilized nearly as much as they could be. And one of my sons and daughter-in-law lived down off of Avenue H, so they're technically in the Mariposa neighborhood, and they had never even thought about going to the park because they thought that it was not safe. So when I was babysitting, I walked from their house to the park, and I didn't see anything threatening going on there, and it's beautiful. So, I find in talking to people that there's a perception about that I think is really erroneous. So what can we do to change that perception? And are there things that we can do to help people visualize how they can use what's available in our community? Like, I think only twice have I seen anybody on that really nice circuit, training circuit? Circuit at park horse, yes, at Mariposa. I'm not so familiar with the park horses in other places, but maybe we need workshops, events, I don't know, to encourage the use of those. So that's just another thing I thought about. What can we do about that issue? And then the Safe Walk to School program. Lancaster School District is really interested in doing a district-wide launch of that next year. So again, can the city and AVPH and the school work together to make that successful? Mariposa is a walking school more than some, actually. You've noticed that too, yeah. So, are there anything my HEAL team members, Tiara or Michelle, would like to add? And I had, next steps here, looking at policies, choosing priorities, establishing an action plan.
I want to say that Commissioner Hearns is right on. I mean, this is definitely a social change, not just in Lancaster, but nationwide. Our obesity rates are alarming throughout this whole country, and, it's lifestyles. We're all busy. It's hard to go home and cook a meal for our kids and do the dishes and plan it all out. Gene and I just had this conversation. So it's a lot of education, and it's a lot of just changing the social norm in our communities. And, I mean, there's other communities that are livable communities, which I think is the goal of Lancaster, that it becomes the culture of the community, that it's livable, walkable, healthy is, the norm, not the unhealthy. So, thank you, Gene.
Very welcome.
Okay, I got it now. The question I would have is that I think part of the problem, listening to you talk about the parks, is twofold. One, what is the City of Lancaster Parks and Rec doing to promote these parks for community involvement? I think that what you're getting is, looking back at when I grew up, which was years ago, but no one lets their kids go to the park by themselves.
Exactly.
I mean, we came home from school, we went to the park, we stayed there till it was dark, and we rode our bikes home.
Right.
And now we're having a situation where, as a parent, you're not going to let your child even ride their bike around the block without you being with them. So I think it's the safety issue that really drives the community inward of saying, you know what, I'm not letting my 8-year-old daughter leave the house unless I'm with her. And I can't be with her all the time, so if I'm not with her, she's staying in the house. And I think it goes back to safety and what people, the criminals out there for kids it's horrendous.
And I will tell you, you're exactly right. And I think the thing is if we have some kind of official presence at a park, it seems to be conducive to people utilizing that park.
Sure.
So the park ranger programs, it's good as long as we can deploy them, but we can't cover every facility. The same thing in the summer, we put heavy patrols into the parks because, Brenda and I manage that budget. So it's like we put extra patrols in the parks at night specifically for that activity, just the presence. But we have a big contingent of reserves and volunteers here, reserve deputy sheriffs and volunteers. And these are some things we're looking to help utilize those folks for presence in those parks, in the community parks. Whit Carter Park's a beautiful park, but the city opened the park, and 2 days later some vandals went over and burned the gymnasium equipment down in the thing. So that was quite expensive, and we had to replace it. So then we kind of locked the place down for several months until we got a handle on the activity in the area, and we put a lot of pressure on the neighborhood to give up who did it, and we dealt with it. And Mariposa's not, we haven't had the issues there. We've had very little activity, but the specific neighborhood right around that park, they use that park. But again, very limited time with their parents present. The same issue, they feel that. I think there's some things that we can probably brainstorm, because I agree, a lot of our parks are, like Lancaster City Park's used constantly.
Right.
Okay, and I think because it's central, there's high visibility in that park. There's a sense of security there that we don't feel in other places. We do our public safety fair at East Side at Pierre Bain Park on purpose, okay, to draw people into that park, because that's another beautiful park, but we have some issues with lighting and things that we're discussing right now, okay, in that park for the evening hours, okay, because as it backs up to the continuation school and everything, there's some inherent problems there, just the way, logistically, the way the park's laid out. So I would be open to having discussions. I've already had some with the reserve contingent at the sheriff's station, because they want to be doing more activity in the community. Maybe the parks is the direction we go. We can definitely incorporate that into this program to promote, especially those parks in that area. Okay, since you're already working with those schools. So we can promote some activities, and we can talk to Rhonda Perez, the Parks Director, about maybe some programs we can do over in that area at night to create that attraction.
If you get the word out to families that come to our parks, they're safe, they'll start to trickle out. But I just think that, first of all, they're not going to let them go by themselves.
Right.
Okay, we don't want them to let them go by themselves. But they have to feel a certain amount of safety.
But you remember from the old days as rec leaders, Linda how many of us were rec leaders in this room? Even for the county before the city. I think the thing is we had a presence every afternoon of rec leaders in those parks issuing we had after-school programs. CARES is one of them, but we had active parks and rec programs throughout the year. Okay,
and they trusted you. People trusted
you. You had eyes and ears there at the park, and so that doesn't, it lessens that propensity for people to do things they shouldn't be doing, because there's someone there to report it. And so if we can incorporate that more as our volunteers are out in the community, or our community members, we have big programs, especially with a huge contingency of retirees in our community, that maybe we get more involved actively in those roles. So that's maybe some way we can maybe address that. And I agree with you, if we have some kind of, it doesn't have to be some giant participation event to create that attraction for families, especially on weekends, or, the summertime's easy because it's light, very late.
Right.
Maybe that's something that the commission's interested in looking at, different avenues to be able to do that. Because I will tell you, I've worked all over Los Angeles County in different capacities. This city has a huge investment in its parks. You can tell this community has taken ownership. That's a priority for us. Okay, and we've always practiced that as a city here since the city's incorporation in 1977. So that's something that we probably should refocus on.
It's a real asset.
It is. It's a lot. And our parks folks work like crazy. We're city event crazy anyway, so we love that stuff. So we could just load a little more on them.
It's just a shame to see so many of them just empty.
I agree. That was my point about Mariposa being underutilized. It is truly underutilized, that park, but maybe it's exactly what you're talking about. There became a certain element. It's bad when you see the city, we had to remove all the picnic tables and everything because people were literally cutting them up to take them to the salvage yard. Okay, those kind of things. Well, that means, our presence, we need to have a little stronger presence and take that stuff back. So, it's just part of that community-based model that we're talking about. We utilize other resources that we don't think about typically that are not government-rated, and we've done that with our wellness homes, okay, and our neighborhood impact homes. We're utilizing resources out in the community that don't fall under the supervision of the government, that are taking ownership of neighborhoods. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I did forget to say, for those that weren't here before, excuse me, the last time, the heel zone is between Avenue I and H and about 20th West and 20th East.
Which falls right into our weed and seed program and all the things, so we've got a lot of presence there.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we've checked off then continued business, new business. Brenda, do we have any staff updates?
You should have all received an invitation to the Kaiser groundbreaking. If you haven't, let me know, and I'll get that to you. And that's actually it. Martin Luther King Day of Service happened after your last meeting, so that was very successful. We had about 37 projects going, which was wonderful, and the biggest of which happened here at the homeless shelter. And that's it.
And just a reminder for those that don't know, the Antelope Valley Board of Trade Business Outlook Conference is February 22nd this year. I'm incredibly interested in it again because for the second year I'll be acting as the MC. So come support me, or come poke fun at me, or throw stuff at me on stage, just so long as we have people there. We have a great program. J.R. Martinez, who was the injured war vet, who is a soap star and was also on Dancing with the Stars. He will be our keynote speaker, along with Craig Jilnick, who is this, I believe this current CEO of Costco. He's actually an AB high school graduate, and he runs that amazing company from the Antelope Valley. He's going to come and give us a perspective on what this community did for him. It's going to be a great program. It's going to last. It's 7:30 till about 2:30 or so in the afternoon. Last year I did a good job keeping a tight leash on the schedule, so nothing ran over. So hopefully I can replicate that again this year. So if you need any tickets, call the Board of Trade's office. So that's what I have. And I believe we have a speaker today. So we request now that do I have to read this in, since we have a speaker, even though he's already filled out the card? We request that any person who would like to address the Lancaster Neighborhood Vitalization Commission on and non-agendized matters to complete a speaker card, and you will find the speaker cards in the back table of the council chambers. Additionally, we request that you fill out the cards completely and print your name as clearly as possible, so that if necessary, the commission or city staff will be able to contact you either by phone or mail. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. When you approach the podium, please notice there are 3 lights. The green light comes on when you begin, the yellow light comes on when you have 30 seconds remaining, and the red light comes on when your 3 minutes are up. We ask that you be considerate of the allotted time to allow other speakers, of which there is just one, to speak as well. Following this procedure will allow for a smooth and timely process for this commission meeting, and we appreciate your cooperation. State law prohibits the Lancaster Neighborhood Vitalization Commission from taking action on items not on the agenda, and your matter will then be referred to staff.
Jason Zink.
Good evening, Commission. Hi. I come to you today because I'm in real estate, and for the last 20 years, born and raised out here in Antelope Valley, and I've been showing investors Antelope Valley. But what's happened recently is the area's kind of gone, down a little bit as far as visually, beautification-wise. I'll just take, Las Hermanas, which is our, most famous housing tract in Antelope Valley. You got graffiti on the walls. I would think that the people that live there would want a benefit assessment district of some kind in order to put some ivy and some bushes and some white fencing along their wall. Also, Desert Rose has no landscaping, and I think just these little things like this would make Antelope Valley more attractive to investors, because we're trying to show the big things, that happen in Antelope Valley, how nice they are and stuff like that. And we've been known as the Okie Ghetto of LA for a long time, and I'd like to change that image. Also, my sister lives in a housing tract where there's wood fences, and built in '89. And I was wondering if we could do benefit assessments in those neighborhoods too, so that you could have block walls instead of wooden fences, because they're always falling down. And when you show houses, and you got dogs barking through the fence, and it's always maintaining. And I think if we could go just do a few neighborhoods and do some questionnaires and see if the residents are willing to put in these benefit assessment districts and put in block walls in their housing tracts, and I think it would add value and to the neighborhood. Also, it would add a lot of jobs right now, and we're 15% unemployment rate, and these are jobs that are in construction, which is low skill, and which is very much needed, because of, especially, if there are other ethnic groups, they're really probably 25% unemployment, and this could benefit them. Also, there's 3 major eyesores in Lancaster that have been eyesores for 20 years. The first one is the old housing tract along the freeway between about J12 and Lancaster Boulevard. It looks like you're like a piece of Roseman in the middle of the city. So if there's somehow we could redo that block wall there, and I know we have Prop A funds from the county, park funds, maybe go ahead and do that bicycle trail that we've talked about for years out here along the flood control, and put in that block wall there. So when you're driving through Lancaster, it looks good. Also, the other eyesore is Avenue K and 3rd Street, the old housing tract there. That wall, everything looks good as soon as you pass Division. Then it's eyesore, this whole house, this wall. It's all chain link fence and elm trees growing through it and stuff like that. Then you get past Challenger, and it's beautiful because you got landscaped in the center of the streets and stuff like that, and landscaped on both sides. But you got to go through that eyesore, the ghetto, to get to the nice houses. KMB just opened up a housing tract out there. Also, the third eyesore is right here on Avenue J and Kingtree, right in front of the library. That's an old housing tract that needs their wall redone, and that's been like that for 20 years that I know of. Like I say, this minimum stuff, ivy on walls so people don't put graffiti on the walls, is just really doesn't cost that much money. It's a water line, plant some plants, and it looks good. It makes the whole area look nice. But the benefit assessment districts, I really think that would create a lot of jobs and benefits to the area. Also, I just came back from Santa Cruz and went to their downtown. And I would think if you guys took the time to go there, along with the Boulevard Association, just to visit that town and see what they've done with their downtown. They got a beautiful fountain and a clock that's just beautiful. And if you guys would do a trip up there, I think there's a lot of shops there that would be very attractive to people here locally. And let's see. That's pretty much it. I got some other ideas and stuff like that, but I just wanted to kind of float that out there because real estate is coming back, and we need to make things look nice so we get some investment up here. And thank you very much for your time.
Sure. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments from today's meeting? No? Okay, I'll go ahead then and adjourn the meeting. It is 5:07.